Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Sleeping Warrior and Righteous Force in G+. Very good to have you.
Hola.
Good morning.
Hello. Shout out to all my Patreons. I'm just a bit under the weather, so I'm not going to read out all your names, but really appreciate your support.
Shout out retracted.
How dare you shout out retracted for my patrons? Wasn't for them, there wouldn't be a show.
Pardon?
If it wasn't for them, there wouldn't be a show. So when, you know, my hard drive failed, right? Well, as a direct result of having funds from Patreon, same with the projector, same with the amplifiers, same with the preamp, same with everything I've fixed, it's all come from Patreon funds. So, you know, I made it, when Ranty was like, set up a Patreon, I was like, no, I don't really want to, I don't have any need for it. And it's like, you don't have any need for money? I'm like, well, I've got all this broken equipment around me. It's like, well, just set it up for that then, if that's your justification. So I did. So I put in the description of Patreon, my main purpose for asking for funds on this site is so I can maintain my equipment to keep the show running. And when that hard drive failed, I phoned up the guy who repairs my computers and said, can you do this in a pinch as quickly as humanly possible? Yeah, he charged me through the nose and sold me a very expensive drive, but within 24 hours I had the computer back and I didn't miss a beat. No one would be any the wiser. But it cost several £100s to do that, and that all came from Patreon funds. In other words, if I didn't have that money from the Patrons, there's a good chance that hard drive would have failed and then the show would have ended. That would have been it. Until I got it fixed, and I've had to raise money without any income coming in, which is, vicious circle. So, you've no idea how grateful I am to the Patrons, which is why I bit your head off.
No, I totally agree. I mocked it like jovial. I didn't mean it in a bad way, because I realised that at the end of the day, things break, and there's no love for being a flat earther. Nobody loves us because everybody says, how dare you take £3 for your whole hangout where you spent 2 hours and you get paid £3 for it? How dare you do that? Yet you see all the ballers and they're all like, oh, these are all my Patreons, and what are they realistically doing? I mean, all they're doing is hate videos. At least we're having a go at trying to work this shit out. I mean, we don't have all the answers, but we realise that we're not on a ball. I saw your 2 links that you sent to me, Nathan, or I saw one of them anyway. Did you watch them, or did you just link me because they were about me?
No, I watched it all the way through and commented. It's just rare that I do that, but when you're under the weather, you're not inclined to move around much or do much. So I'm sat here with the iPad, and I'm like, okay, well, I will actually go through comments for a change and see if there's any links, watch them and approve them or whatever. And that just happened to be one of them. So I watched it all the way through, left my remarks, and then sent it to you just in case you were interested.
I'm shocked how ignorant the guy is. I'm not familiar with this FE Dogma guy. Is he new?
No idea. Like I say, someone just left a link to him. I just go through the comments, and if someone leaves a link, generally I'll click on it. If it's something obscene or not part of the debate, then I'll remove it. But if it's on topic, people more often than not, just post videos to NASA. You're like, well, fine. That's your belief being exercised in this comment, and that's worthy of approval, so that'll get approved. But if someone links to blood over intent or some shite, then I'll just remove it.
Yeah, I mean, I found it interesting when he drew the dome and he said if Anthony's version was correct, then this is what would happen. And I was like, that isn't even what my position is, you idiot. Like, our position is that we try not to make any claims at all. But we're trying to dissect their claims, not represent our claims. We're not trying to say what it is. We're just telling people, hang on, this can't be the case because whatever it is. So then to like, I don't know what the word is, to kind of cross-pollinate that into what he believes or what he claims is my own model. I'm like, I never even fucking said that. Why are you saying that, you idiot? Just got to the point where these people should join the show rather than do hate videos, because we could counter all of the points in this video in about 30 seconds if you were speaking to him online in real life. But they won't join because, well, let's be honest, they need their own echo chamber, so they have to create their own channel to be able to have their own echo chamber, because they know if they do come on, well, it's going to get dissected and they're going to be made to look silly, which is presumably the reason why he's not come on.
You can't attack your argument without creating that red herring, without attaching a straw man model to you. Even though you've not represented any model, he's going to stick a flat earth map with a dome over it and say that that's your model. He phrased it carefully enough. He was like, if I take Anthony's explanation and insert it into a flat earth model, it's like, well, why would you do that? So you can offer up a false dichotomy. That's the only reason. There's no other reason to do so. But what I found comical was, regardless, he's doing that so he can assert the strawman assertion that you don't have any gradient in that dome. It's like, well, yeah, you would. You know, you've only got to use my kettle example. You put the kettle on at the base where it's coming out. It's going to be very high amounts of concentration of the vapour. Whereas you go up a mile, there's hardly any. Well, that's a gradient because gas is created at at ground level. Well, that is the reason why you can't get away with just using a straw man and saying it would all be equal pressure. Well, no, it wouldn't. Gas is created at ground level. But moreover, in his diagram, he's got this picture of a sphere Earth cartoon with this halo around it, gas pressure, and he's got all the arrows pointing down. You're like, down in their model, I might add, towards the centre of Earth, of course. Well, no, gas expands in all directions. What the hell is this? So what's the black bit? The vacuum it's not expanding into. Why? Because you've drawn some cartoon arrows pointing towards Earth and excluded the fact that gas expands in all directions. Just comical. Useless.
It is. And obviously, it defies the whole point of pressure in the first case. But in the first case, because pressure's pointing out, not in. And that was what I said in my video. But he seems to ignore that bit and just flips it anyway. And I'm like, this is like saying hot has become cold in your model, even though in real world it's still hot. It's the opposite position. That you just because you're putting arrows on a picture to explain your model doesn't make it true real world.
Exactly. They've got to, as you put it, make a video so that there's no real right to reply. Yeah, you can leave a comment. You can easily delete it. You know, like you say, if he was here, it would be demolished in about 30 seconds. Well, that's why I left a comment. It's just as quick to type a comment. Yeah, it takes 2 minutes rather than 30 seconds. But ultimately speaking, typing out a comment that just demolishes their position. Even at one stage in his video, he's got a picture of a box on top of the surface of Earth. It's like, why have you got this box with the top of the atmosphere written next to the box when there is no box? You know, it's just next to the vacuum, but you've got this like box saying that that's how the atmosphere works, and then you describe it as collimated or in a column. And you're like, that's not what gas does. It doesn't form columns. It's not solid. It's not liquid.
Got to the point where I thought he was having a shit while he was making the audio for that video because it sounded like he was straining.
Okay.
A bit like Blue Marble Science. He always sounds like he's like very nasally when he talks.
Yeah,
maybe a guilty conscience. But what I was going to say is, it seems like the number one fallacious or non-argument people make, not just in this circle, is straw man. It seems like that's what people gravitate towards, is making straw man.
Yeah, build up an argument that you've not actually made, in this case a model that wasn't asserted. Transpose Anthony's explanation into the straw man model that he's going to hold up in false dichotomy. Same old bag, we've seen it for years.
I'm so tired.
I was going to mirror Hillel Finder. So episode 404. Just by coincidence, somebody had left a comment on it. And therefore it brought my attention to it. I'm like, okay, I'll have a quick listen to this. And it's Hillel Finder getting absolutely annihilated. And it's well over a year ago that this happened. Like I say, episode 404. I was like, if I'm just too unwell to do the show, I'll just mirror that. From the second channel.
I'm going to read a comment somebody asked me. A ball earther, somebody that I can tolerate, I can put up with, said, how come you want to win this Dumb Fuck of the Year award so bad? Question mark, smile, giggle, lol, all the shit comes after it. And this is what my answer was. I says, I'm going to claim that I won it anyway, regardless of, even if Kyle or whoever wins it. I want to show that being voted as a dumb fuck by a religious fanatic group is literally laughable. It's meant as an insult, and I accept that it's supposed to be an insult, but being voted a dumb fuck by Muslim extremists, for example, that are crazy ass in terms of this topic, extremists, I probably worded that bad, but you know the point I'm making, reflects exactly how ignorant you lot are. At the end of the day, you don't have any decent evidence for your core view, and that lack of evidence makes it a belief, a religion. To be mocked by any religion is just hilarious to me. Fuck all evolution. No heliocentrism. But if you encourage light-hearted ridicule for not believing in your narrative, that's everything that's wrong with education. It's created stupid people with no ability to think properly, and that also think that science by majority decision is the truth. That's ridiculous. You guys think that Cavendish experiment proved something. Gravity, mass attracting mass. But Einstein said that mass is not attracting mass. Mass warps space-time, giving us a perception of a force. Well, we both know that that's nonsense, but it is the current position for gravity. Your side ignore that Einstein debunked Cavendish and pushed Cavendish anyway. Forget about Einstein. Well, you can't do that. You have to argue that space-time was bent and let us laugh at you. But your side are too disingenuous to do that. You apply Newton instead. Yeah, I'm the dumb fuck. It's a joke. So really, the conclusion is that if you get called a dumb fuck by a dumb fuck, that's like a double negative. So really, we all know that a double negative. It's like somebody that's like mentally retarded in some way calling you stupid because you realize that they don't actually understand what's gone on. So because they can't comprehend it, they call you stupid. That's what's really happening. These morons think that atmospheric pressure is the explanation for why the gas hasn't burst into the vacuum of space on their model. But the model isn't matching reality and they can't see it. All they can see is their model. They're blinkered by their own model that much that what is really in real world, a pressure pushing out in all directions, somehow has become the opposite on their model. And because it makes sense to them, they accept it. Yeah, I'm the dumb fuck. And I'm like, do you know what? I'm claiming that. I'm having it.
I think you're provoking a little too much. I think we got to ease up on the provoking because it just makes an echo chamber for both sides, not just one side.
Well, if we don't provoke, we just get dismissed, flippantly dismissed with a hand wave. So we have to poke a little bit, because if we don't provoke conversation, reaction, we don't get to find out what the opposing view is. So it's like I said about Ranty with his pictures. If you don't poke the bear a little bit, you're not going to ruffle his feathers and make him angry. But we need to be able to know, because they won't come in and talk, because they have to beg the question. They have to deny real life evidence in favor of their model. They have to do all the things that they know that they can't really do in this conversation on this channel. So the only way we can do it is to provoke. So if we don't provoke them, then it just becomes silent. But if we pick on somebody like the Rumpus, for example, you know what Rumpus is like. He's not going to sit around and hear his name being bandied around and calling him names and stuff. He's going to come in and he's going to put the record straight, and then we're going to laugh at him afterwards because he hasn't been able to do it. So you're right. We shouldn't have to provoke it, but they don't want to engage. They don't want to have an open discussion. They want it to have an echo chamber or very much a one-way. I mean, look at Brenda yesterday on Arwen's. She knows that gravity is not a force. She knows that she's got to argue bendy space-time, but she won't accept that it's conceptual. She won't accept that it only comes out mathematically. She won't accept that there's no real-world experiment or test or manipulation or anything to prove that space-time is real. She's happy to argue that space-time's real. And I'm like, you just can't have a conversation with her. So where do you go from here? You got zealots that won't have the conversation, and then you have zealots that will have the conversation but demand that it goes their way. And it's like, what is the conversation now? Is it literally dogma? Is that what we've resorted to? Dogma? Come on, Nathan, you must have something to say about Brenda.
Bears don't have feathers.
Pardon?
Bears don't have feathers.
Oh, because I said ruffle his feathers.
You said you've got to poke the bear and ruffle its feathers.
Yeah. It's hard to get analogies right when you're doing it on the fly.
I completely agree with you, though. These people know where their arguments have been completely smashed, but they'll just rinse and repeat.
Yeah, rinse and repeat. I mean, Brenda will do that over and over again. She'll leave it now for a week because let it die down, but she'll go back into 24/7 and she'll be spouting this nonsense about gravity. So long as we're talking about gravity, arguing over it, debating over it, it reifies it to be true, real, true, a thing. Well, I think we just need to say there is no gravity unless you can prove it, and then just not have any debate over it. Can't even define it, let alone prove it.
All right, I gotta go. I'll see you guys later.
See you later, buddy. I need to shut down some of these windows. I've got too many tabs open. Oh, by the way, Nathan, did you see how many tabs Rumpus had open on his PC the other night?
Did Righteous go?
What?
Looks like Righteous has gone. He said he was only going to hang around for 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, he said he had to go. Did you see how many tabs Rumpus had open on his PC the other night?
Where? I don't watch Rumpus.
He was on Ranties. Was he on Ranties? I think he was on. Yeah, he came on Ranties that night when he was supposed to come on, but Ranty didn't tell him, and Ranty thought he had told him, and Ranty tried to blame Rumpus, but I think it was actually Ranty's fault. But Rumpus came on and he opened his screen shared, and he opened up his browser, and he had about 6 tabs open up, or 6 windows, and in each window it said it indicated that he had something like 238 tabs open in one go, and I was like, not many computers can do that, Rumpus. What kind of computer have you got? He had like 4 or 5 windows with each with X amount of tabs open, like hundreds of tabs. I'm like, Rumpus, not many computers can actually do that. It's like, what kind of computer have you got?
Oh, I don't know. I remember Linus Tech Tips doing a video on how many tabs you could have open depending on how many sticks of memory you had. And I think with 16 gigs, you can easily get up to several hundred tabs open.
No, it's not that many.
All it'll do is start, what's it called? There's a process where they cache, that's it. It'll just cache some of them. When you get to a certain number, you've got haven't you got 16 gigs? I couldn't tell any difference. At the time it came out, I had 32 gigs. I ended up selling 2 of them because I just didn't need them. You know, and I have got to the point where I've had hundreds of tabs open with just 16 gigs. It's easy. That's loads of memory. 16 gigs is an immense amount. People just don't realise.
Yeah. I do agree it's an immense amount, but you'd have to look at it. You'd have to look and see what it was when Rumpus screen shared on Ranties. It was just shocking. I was like, I have never seen anybody with that amount. I had to ask him, is that what that number represents, Rumpus, in case it was something else? Because it looked like it was tabs. And it was tabs, but he had hundreds of tabs open. And was like, bloody hell, that's either really bad memory, bad organizational skills, or something else is going on. Nobody has that many tabs open.
Sound check.
Hey.
Got me? Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, okay. I got really bad internet today, so I'm in and out. I barely got on.
Nathan, did you have a storm last night?
You know what?
Did you have a storm last night?
Not that I am aware of.
About 9 o'clock to about 11 o'clock, it was just sideways rain, mega windy.
No.
It was like something out of America come across for a bit, and then it very quickly cleared up, and we had clear night skies.
No,
It was
we didn't
bizarre.
have any of that. I only know because I was up till God knows what hour. I just couldn't get sleep. Every time I lied down, I just stopped being able to breathe. So no, I was up till quite a late hour. I'd have noticed if there'd been a storm. There wasn't. Not here anyway. I like storms.
Yo,
Sit up with the kids and watch them.
hang on. I'm in Nathan's at the minute. Should I come out? Sounds like it's about to be serious. Right. Hang on.
Going on?
I was trying to shut some tabs down. I got too many tabs open. Right, hang on. Right, I'll be back, Nathan. 1 sec.
There is. You hear me, 10th? Lost 2. This is lost 1. Are you lost 3 over?
Check 1, 2. Check.
Hey. My wife's
Yeah,
giving me... Go on.
No, I've just got tremendous internet issues from last night. So if I can't get on with a clear signal, I'll just drop out today.
Okay. That's not so good.
No, but I'm going off of another Wi-Fi that's over 100, almost 200 yards away right now. So as long as the signal keeps, I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'll get people chit-chatting without me necessarily intervening too much. I can already feel the pills and potions my wife's given me wearing off.
Yeah, so you got to take care of yourself. So I'll stay on and try to keep a conversation then.
I hate being ill. I said to Righteous just before we started recording, I'm like, I have to do a really short intro. I'm slurring more words.
It's life, man.
I'll go on mute to do this. Don't want to blow my nose on while I'm
No problem.
unmuted. Can always see if there's a chat from Discord. Hello, Buster2. Can you hear us?
Only one person in Discord right now?
Few.
I was on mute. Can you hear me?
Hey, Buster. Good to have you.
Thanks.
Hey, Buster.
Hoping the Discord server will be a
Hello?
bit more chatty today, that's all.
So, Buster,
Can
where do
you
you
hear
stand
me?
on the... Yeah, we can hear you. Where do you stand on the
Okay.
globe or flat Earth?
I stay on the flat Earth side, and definitely not as intelligent as you guys are, but just trying to learn some more.
Well, don't give us that much credit.
I was going to say, don't be too generous.
I do have one question if you guys know anything about the vacuum stuff.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So what would be the difference between measuring in microns as opposed to the Torr values?
Measuring in what versus Tor?
Micron.
Yes.
Microns, he said.
I don't know.
The only reason I asked was because I work at a processing place at a hemp farm, and we got this super expensive vacuum pump, and they measure it in microns. And I just was wondering if there was any correlation, or maybe there's not.
Sure. I mean, the number of microns per amount of volume, presumably, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, these scalings are arbitrary. How you assign it is irrelevant. It's just the amount of stuff in the amount of space, right?
Right. It
Well,
was just the guy was, of course, he was a normie, and he was talking about pulling vacuums almost as close to space, and I was like, yeah, but I'm pretty sure the orders of magnitude are really high when you're getting down to those small values.
yeah, you're right. I mean, when you're talking about PSI, pounds per square inch, right? Well, you get to a point where there's basically zero, but you've still got an amount of stuff there. So you can either go down to the smallest scales and then say there's nothing, which isn't true, or start putting it into different scales, which is when you end up with Tor values. But all of these assignments, they're all describing the same thing, essentially. So,
okay. It was just interesting to talk to somebody. He was correlating that little machine. I mean, it's expensive, very expensive. You know, $5,000-$6,000 for a little, pump that's the size of a, it's small anyway. And it was just like hearing him trying to make the correlation between pulling those numbers that are close to the space, Narnia, and then
Now,
him just kind of go ahead.
What kind of work or type of measurements are they trying to gauge?
It's a short path distillation. They're pulling to get the CBD oils, but the pump they use with this little chemistry set, it measures. They're measuring by microns, and that's the first time I'd really seen that after listening to you guys talk about torr values, and I just didn't know what it correlates. But it's just pulling a vacuum through a short path to get what they're wanting out of the end product.
So to get the CBD oil, there needs to be these measurements by this apparatus, and to get it, it has to go through a short path type of a vacuum. I guess the word would be not distilling, but separation. Is that right?
I guess that's true. It's more of a separation. I mean, it goes through a distillation, but this is more of a separation. So you're heating the crude oil, and you have to use the vacuum after the heat to pull the end product that you want now. But it was interesting to me, the measurements they were using.
So I'm just trying to picture it. So you have a distillation going, you got heat, you've got pressure building up inside the container, and then they have to use something opposite, like a vacuum, to pull what they want out and leave the rest in the container, right?
Yes.
I think you were right with your first point. You were saying it's orders of magnitude different. Well, I think it's either 10 to the minus 7 or maybe 8 is the greatest that they've achieved here with these enormous, great big thick walls. And that's still orders of magnitude less than they claim the outer space regions at 10 to the minus 17 torr are. So 10 to the minus 8 torr, if that's what it is on Earth that they can replicate. Well, then that's nowhere near the claim of the lack of stuff in space.
Right. It was just listening to him. He was correlating this little pump, which is expensive, but it was pulling. He was saying, "Oh, we can get almost down to the zero, like not 0 microns, but close." It was going from. It was saying atmospheric pressure with the micron meter was like, I think it was like 1,000,000 microns, something around that order, and then it was pulling down to going all the way down to like into the hundreds of microns. So I mean, it was going from what the micron meter was saying was atmospheric at like 1,000,000, somewhere around. Don't quote me on that. But then it was going down to hundreds of microns, and he was trying to correlate that with getting close to 0 vacuum. And I was like, I don't even think it's close. I mean, yeah, you're going down to a small value, but you're not getting anywhere close to those negative core values.
Have you seen the videos on YouTube where they use a small vacuum and they suck the air out of those tankers and they implode on themselves?
Collapse.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if a small amount of differential in pressure causes that steel container to collapse on itself, I think what he's doing with microns is not even close to that, or else everything that this thing is attached to will collapse on itself, right? He's creating a vacuum of such type.
I was just wondering if you guys kind of had a clue, because when you're seeing that pump being as nice of a piece of equipment as it is, and then when you hear how NASA has to build this 8-foot thick walls to get so close to space, it was just like, I was just wondering what because it's the apparatus that they're using, it's all glassware, and then there was one tube that was a really thick plastic, but it still sucked it down it collapsed it to where it just barely the product was getting through, so they have to get another hose. It was just, it's very interesting when you see something in action doing it. So yeah, like the tanker, this type of stuff, but yeah, it's almost beyond me when you get down to those small values to comprehend.
Probably a conversion calculator if you just Google it. So how to convert microns per litre or whatever the value is into torr. There'll be a calculation somewhere. But I don't know it off the top of my head.
I'll check that out, I think.
But that's the thing to do. Just take his 100 microns or 1,000 microns per litre or whatever the value, and then just convert that to torr, and then go, here you go, you're 10 orders of magnitude off. So, no, it's nowhere near.
Yeah, it was. I hear you. I hear some people bring those things up with the vacuum pumps, and then when I finally get to see one, it's like there's no way it can be. There's no way it can be even close. Because if they have to get as big of the 8-foot thick walls to get to the close to space, and then you've got this little pump, there's no way it can get even close. But I guess it's just hard for most people to comprehend those orders of magnitude, how big the difference they are.
Right. But yet you have Neil deGrasse Tyson telling them how vast and empty space is, and they'll all just gasp and go, yeah, wow.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting watching that stuff. I love listening to you guys. I appreciate what you're doing. I try to stay quiet most of the time because I feel like if I speak up, you guys are pretty on top of everything.
No, good questions. Far from it. Glad you did.
Thanks.
So Nathan, on this 10 to the minus 17 torr, for the longest time, I was just thinking it's a negative, like the minus was for negative. But on recent shows, I think it was brought up that it's orders of magnitude. It's not necessarily mean it's minus. Can you go over that?
Yeah, you can't have negative pressure. So if in the example with the number of microns, how many bits are in there to smash onto the walls of the container? That's what you're measuring. Well, if you've got none, like literally zero, you've not got a minus amount smashing against the walls, have you? So
Correct.
In terms of the amount of space, the size, versus the amount of stuff in it, when you get to vast spaces with virtually nothing in, you're moving the decimal place further and further along to account for the fact that there might be 1 micron in 1,000,000 miles of space. Well, obviously you're not going to get a PSI value out of that. So you're going to end up moving the decimal place further and further and further and further and further and further down to show how little there is going on, i.e. how little activity is there to create pressure. So it's never going to be a minus figure. You can't have minus pressure. That's absurd.
Correct. So you're enlarging the volume.
Yeah, if you like. I mean, you could have one particle and then increase the volume and then keep increasing the volume. Well, the amount of times that it will strike one particular area is going to get less and less likely as the volume that it could strike increases. Well, that's going to move your decimal place again, isn't it? So that's all it's doing. But it's not minus. That's the point.
Yeah.
Isn't the minus just the direction in which the decimal point moves, or
Exactly.
So if
10 to the
the
minus
minus
17.
wasn't
Exactly.
there, the number would get bigger.
Exactly. 10 to the
And
minus
if that
17
minus is there, then you move the decimal point the opposite direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Any other topics in Discord?
I can do a curvature one if you want.
Yeah.
I recognise your voice, horizontal level literalist. What's your name?
Yeah, Bev.
It's who?
Bev.
Try thinking.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, Bev, try thinking.
Yeah. Thought I recognised your voice.
So basically I've for 6 months I've had Fight the Flat Earth calling me a child abuser, and well, in fact, calling everybody a child abuser, all the flat earthers, and I'm religious as well, all because he doesn't believe that level is horizontal, or he interprets that as being flat earth sort of thing. So I've developed a from the surveying point of view of the level being horizontal, sort of an argument for level being horizontal, because it is.
I think I heard you say once for 6 months you've been talking to him and going in circles about what flat is. Was that you?
Not flat, no. I keep away from flat. I do level. Level is horizontal.
I
So give
appreciate.
us
I get it. There's going to be reasons I'm not even going to ask, but by the same token, they are synonyms. You realise?
What? It's the same thing.
Flat and level are, yeah.
Yeah, level and horizontal is the same thing. I know
Yeah.
that. I mean, like, I get that. But my argument based around that ends up with water level and sea level being horizontal.
Yeah.
They don't like that.
Well, yeah. When it gets, what you're basically saying is, when you've brushed away all of the invalid pseudoscience, the just so stories, and the logical fallacies, what you're left with is them denying what flat means. Now, I appreciate that you don't want to use the word flat, level or horizontal, perfectly acceptable. It's all the same thing. And because presumably flat triggers them, right? It doesn't matter. They want to deny the reality of what that word means. Oh, yeah, fine.
I know.
Fundies. Zealots.
Yeah, it's hilarious because you can get them to say some really stupid stuff quite easily.
that's for sure.
So anyway, but like my argument is comes round to the fact that level is horizontal and surveyors use level, and the water level is horizontal, right? But also, along with that, a water level is a surveying tool for establishing a horizontal. That's what a tool level is. So what the water level and a water level are the same thing.
Yeah. Do you know who made that point about 3 years ago?
Horizontal.
Jeranism made that point about 3 years ago in terms of, you know, you could create a giant water level. So the example he gave was to say you just stretch out, is essentially describing having a great big long spirit level and just filling it with water. And if it's level at both ends, and I'm sure he said that in some instances they actually use this method to attain a perfect level over a long distance. You just have a long pipe, and then you fill it at both ends. You fill it with water, and then essentially it's a handmade, on the fly spirit level. That's what it is. So Jaren gave that exact example about 2 or 3 years ago. But you're right. It's a good example. The two are the same thing. A spirit level and level are the same.
Yeah, level is horizontal, but the water level, like I would use an example. I live on the Leeds to Liverpool Canal, right? So there's 4 locks from the Mersey that bring it up to 50 foot. Then the canal travels 27 miles to Apley Bridge, or 15 miles as the crow flies. So let's call it 15 miles, right? From Liverpool to Apley Bridge, 0 locks. So for that stretch of water, I would call level, seems to have the same altitude at one end and the other. So I would say that proves that the water level is horizontal. Now, if they want to argue that it isn't, then they would be arguing that horizontal isn't a straight line.
Well, what they do is they juxtapose it with the distance from the centre of their presupposed sphere. So they say that the elevation as you travel along the canal is being measured from the distance. Is measured from the distance. Oh God, I wish I wasn't so ill. It's measured from centre of Earth. So they're asserting just a complete nonsense in terms of what elevation is. You've only got to do a Google search. First entry on Wikipedia. Elevation is not to be confused with the distance from the centre of the Earth. But that's what they'll say it is, so that they can essentially make what is obviously level a 0 change in elevation, because you're on a canal, into a curved line. They're essentially bending level.
It's not curved though, is it?
No, but that's what they've got to do.
Anybody listening will hear that and think, water doesn't do that. Because then you get into the argument with them. Right, okay, so from one end, does the water go up and then go down to be at the same thing? Or does the water constantly drop? And then you're back to the fact that water doesn't do that because it's level.
Yeah,
So it doesn't rise or fall.
any child could see that, but yet these globetards have to argue what horizontal is or what it's not.
Yeah. So basically, my argument starts when they say, "You're a flat earther." I say, "What's that mean?" Because the Earth would be the ground. The ground has mountains and valleys. They're definitely not flat. But the water is level. So when they start with the flat Earth thing, that's, I don't know, call it a misnomer. It can't possibly be true. It's just a trigger to get them to start talking.
It doesn't take much.
Well, but then you can't get around the fact that water is level.
Well,
I don't think there's anywhere for them to go, to be honest.
They know water is level. It's so dumb when they argue this, because a few shows ago, Nathan was saying that the floor in the oceans has contour. They got valleys and mountains underneath the ocean, and the water forms to it. But the top is what? Forming to what? It's level.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm putting it out because Fight the Flat Earth seriously called me a child abuser because I said that level is horizontal.
Well, maybe he meant you abused his article and he's a child.
No. He seriously meant child abusers. He calls every flat earther a child abuser. So I'm giving him a chance.
He's projecting.
Yeah, no, I'm giving him the chance. I'll say, like, here's a one. All you need is 1 mile length of canal. That's static water, not flowing, doesn't move. You don't need to talk about a horizon or whatever. Get a surveyor to measure the curvature in the water level. Like, now, a surveyor will look at you and go, talking about the water level is the level. It's so simple.
I don't think Fight the Flat Earth actually is thinking child abuser the way we're thinking child abuser. I think he's thinking any type of discipline to a child, like don't do that or don't touch that. That's child abuse to him. It looks like maybe that's the way he grew up.
I don't know. He seriously thinks it's mind. Because that's why he adds in religion with it as well. Flat Earth and religion. If you teach them to your
desperate.
Children, then
they're
you're
desperate
a child
to add harm
to him.
But that's not answering your argument. That's a desperate ad hom. You might as well throw strawberry pie in there as well, because he's not answering your argument.
He's blocked me now.
Yeah.
Blocked me everywhere. Rather than face the rest of the argument and face up to it.
He's blocked you. That's great.
Yeah. But I mean,
rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. That's all they got.
Curvature.
What's that?
I think it's about time we started talking about the curvature, because they
we
take
do. It's the first question. Any
yeah.
signs of Earth curvature? And I say, not
I know it's the
Southern
first
California.
one. Never gets answered by anyone, does it? I think that's the question that nobody has ever said anything about.
Yeah, but they say they see it, and they're standing next to you, and you don't see it, but they see it. They're living in Narnia.
All that is they've
it.
been robbed of using a begging the question calculator. That's all that is.
Yeah.
There is no Earth
You
curve
don't
beyond
need a
their assertion
calculator
that
with
uses
my
that calculator.
measurement, do you?
Say again?
If you can get a surveyor to go to a canal and measure the curvature within a mile of it, I mean, because according to their things, it should be there, it should be measurable.
Yeah, but that's not how they measure it. They measure it by way of begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective, hijacking curve calculator. That's not how
and
the surveyor's
looking
going
at
to...
things. I know, I've gone, like, I think 2 months of me, the 6 months was me asking them for a method that they would use to be able to determine the curvature. And all that they ever came up with was that they could, I think is the one that they did with the Bedford level test where they were looking at things. But it all of whatever they said, as you know, to measure a curvature, was looking at something. They never once did they think, oh, I'll go and ask a surveyor, because that's what they do. That's their job.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Now, we are joined by 10th Man and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so a warm welcome to you, one and all.
Hey, hey, Chocolate's here, Sleeping Warrior's here.
Hello,
As well.
Chocolate, and hello, Sleeping Warrior.
Good morning.
Nathan, would you like me to do the housekeeping questions?
That'd be wonderful. Yes, please.
All right. Discord, please respond if you can. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Can I offer an opposite? Oh.
Sure.
Is that bit of feedback? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Could I offer the fact that the level is horizontal, therefore the water level is horizontal, and
Of course.
therefore the water level in a canal would also be horizontal. So
I concur with that. I would love to hear if there is a glober that would
is no
not
curvature.
concur with that.
Any Globers? This is your chance.
No.
I guess
they
not.
always seem to think that, well, the water level's horizontal, that's all right.
Bev, I think what you said just makes too much sense. You know, water level being level and all that. that might be too actually sensical. So yeah, that's. Guess we can move on.
I guess no one's going to take on horizontal today. All right. Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nah, we're not moving.
How about Discord? Very quiet today, these Globers. All right. Any scientific evidence for gravity?
Nope.
Hello.
Did you have something to add? Dispute everything? Despite
Dispute?
everything.
Sorry, I
ahead.
didn't.
Go ahead.
You're free to talk.
Sorry, I didn't
Dispute.
hear the question.
Any scientific?
Hold on 1 second, 10th man. Did you have something to add? Is it?
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
was joking. Scientific evidence for curvature. If you see mirage, you can see curvature.
Sorry, if you can see a mirage, you can see curvature.
Yeah, that was a joke.
Can you expand on that? Hold on, can you just expand on it? I don't understand.
If you can see mirage, then mean that curvature is somewhere there. Something like that.
I don't really follow your example. Maybe I'm being a
He
bit
said
thick.
it was a joke. He said it was a joke.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So,
it was a joke.
oh, I see. So asserting things are mirages and then linking that back to curvature is curvature. I see. No, it isn't. Thank you. Anybody else?
Okay.
Clearly not.
Clearly not. All right. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Anybody? We all get taught this shit in school. You should all have evidence for it.
What was the question again?
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Oh, hell no. No, there isn't.
In a box?
Come on.
In books? Not really evidence. Just
Yeah,
Narnia's in
only in
books too.
books.
Narnia's in books too.
How would we ever know if there's a core for almost 4,000 miles down when we haven't even gotten almost 8? Supposedly. I mean, that's just so nonsensical. It's fucking insane.
That's
Sorry.
right. Yeah, you wouldn't. That's just a fairy tale. You just made it up. Yeah, they teach it in school books, but there is absolutely no evidence for it.
Discord, you going to speak up on this, or we're going to move on to number 5?
Now let's labor it out. Let's see if there's anybody out there with any evidence for their nonsense model that doesn't work, that they think works, that doesn't do anything.
Nope, there is none.
All right, we'll move on to number 5. Any evidence for the distance of the sun?
Before you move on, that's open to flat earthers as well, equally. Anybody.
Nope.
Hoppy. Go ahead.
No, there's none. There's
Fair
none.
enough.
It's a quiet day today on the level flat Earth.
Yeah.
Any evidence of the radius of the Earth, the R value?
Nope.
Tenth man, would you agree with me if I suggested that if nobody in Discord wants to converse, we should kick them all out, because the whole point of it is to have some kind of discussion? Nobody's going to speak, then can I not just kick them all out?
Well, move them to the other room at least, and let other people come on who may want to talk.
Well, I have a question, but it's not necessarily in a debate.
Go on.
Go ahead, man. What's your question?
Okay, do we all agree on the speed of light?
No, it's variable. It's not fixed.
Is there any information that you can give to me that I can look into?
Is there any, what did you say?
On
You
the
don't
speed
have
of light.
Google? You can't search?
Well, hold on. What's the purpose of your question? Is it just that you want to know more about light, or was there a tangent that you were going to draw?
It has to do with the lunar laser ranging experiment.
Okay, go ahead. Give us your context. Feel free. Mike's all yours.
Okay. They use photons of light to determine the distance from the Earth to the Moon.
Go on.
Hold on, Discord. I can't really hear people on Discord, and I have to use
We're waiting for
YouTube.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello.
We're waiting
And
for the
there's a
rest of it.
lag.
You're just surprisingly not getting interrupted, but we're just waiting for your conclusion.
You talking to me?
I
No,
can hear
no, the other
myself
guy
on
who said
Discord, but I
photons
have to
aimed
use
at the moon.
YouTube.
Please complete your sentence.
Okay, so they shoot photons to the moon, and it's they shoot a lot of them, and they get back a reflection 2.5 seconds later. So I was wondering if there's any
And?
information on that, where you had any discretionary information.
Are you on about the distance of the sun, ping reflections from Venus?
No, he's saying he's talking about measuring the moon.
Yeah, you described that yesterday.
I mean, when they shot lasers at the moon and reflect,
I was
they
wondering if there's
tried
any
to measure the photons coming back. That's what you're talking about, right?
You talking about reflectors?
Yeah,
Shooting,
that's exactly what I'm
shooting
talking about.
light at the reflectors.
Yep.
So what's your question?
Yeah, but that's bullshit, man. I've looked into it. I don't.
Well, I'd like to know what information that you know about that's.
Have you done the math yourself?
Math for what?
That's not. No math. I've looked at the numbers, but I didn't see the math.
Well, they allegedly shooting a beam of light onto the surface of the moon, where the allegedly left the reflectors from alleged moon mission. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
well, if you look into it, they'll tell you that the alleged beam, by the time it reaches the moon, it's 2 miles in diameter, dude. You know what 2 miles in diameter beam is? Now imagine that
Yeah,
thing.
they likened it to shooting a rifle like towards a moving dime.
Well, just continue the thought experiment. Now imagine
Mile
that 2 mile radius beam. Somewhere there, 1 pixel hits alleged reflector. I'm just entertaining your thought here, right? So what is the diameter of that little pixel coming back to Earth would be? It would be 2 miles. How many fucking photons can you fucking gather from 2 miles of which would be equivalent of like a handheld laser shooting from the moon to Earth? You're kidding me, right?
Hold on. There is an answer to that. If he doesn't know, I'll give it you. Do you know the answer to that question? Is it Teco? Whatever it is. Taco? They claim they get a couple
No,
back.
I don't.
Okay, no worries. They claim they get... Rebel. They claim they just get a couple back. 1 or 2. They're sending out tens of millions, but they only get a couple back. And in the duration they expect, based on the R value in the heliocentric model and the distance that places the moon at, they say within the time frame they're expecting, they get a couple of photons back. That's what they say.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just entertaining the thought here. I'm just doing the thought experiment. But people forget to notice, and these assholes forget to mention, of course, conveniently. Meanwhile, as all this happens, allegedly Moon and Earth are in motion. So now if you factor in the motion, you will never, ever, even if all of that is true, be able to detect light reflecting from the moon.
No,
because by the time it gets back, it will be way off, few miles away from your sensors. You will never be able to sense the light from the reflector. And I don't know if you know this, guys.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Rebel, but they claim they can. They claim they get a couple of photons back. The reason I'm giving you a hard time is because so far no one's actually debunked this claim yet. I've hinted at it in my summary, but no one's actually smashed it yet.
But
they're saying no way, we're moving. Well, yeah, we're moving, but they claim they get a couple of back. They get like. Just get my
thing is, how do we even know what's coming back is coming from where they say it's coming from?
Yeah, but hold on a second. There's something else. The reflector that left on the moon is, I think it's called conduit reflector, which means it reflects light directly back to the source. It doesn't reflect just like a normal mirror would. Like if you shoot it at the angle, not like directly 90 degrees, let's say you shoot it at the 40 degrees, now it reflects back at you. That's the type of mirror that they have.
So you're
it's
a
like geometric-shaped little mirrors.
No worries.
So anyway, what I'm trying to say, that's the mirror that will reflect back to source. And if you're in motion, you will never catch the fucking reflection, ever.
Okay.
So even if you give them all that, this entire experiment is a fiasco.
Okay, so you summarised it beautifully by saying even if you give them all that. In other words, if you beg the question with their model and their orbits and their R value and the distance that the moon is presupposed to be at and the return signal being in that time frame, even if you give them that, it's in motion. Well, there's a few ways. There's a few other things you could drop in there that are kind of inconsequential but used by the flat earthers. They claim to do this before the reflectors were there. That's one thing. Anybody? Any response to that? They claim
I
to
knew
have done
that
it
from looking at lunar conspiracy theories.
Yeah, they claim they've done it before. They even dropped the reflectors off there. So
they already had done it before.
Yeah, so they claim
reflectors were dropped off in a place that's in a medium that can't exist.
Ah, chocolate! Finally, here we go.
Bingo!
Go on, chocolate. Go ahead.
Yeah, nobody put any reflectors on the moon because it's in a vacuum that can't exist. So I don't understand why we talk about the reflector thing.
Speaking of which, is there a claim that there is a pressure gradient in a container, and therefore pressure gradient and the vacuum can coexist? Did somebody claim that?
We'll come to that, Rebel. But for the time being, the chap, how do you say your name? Teco Ham.
Taco Juan.
Taco Juan.
Taco Juan.
Taco Juan.
Taco Juan.
Taco Juan. Okay, Taco Juan. Do you appreciate that the claim involves them making a journey through a medium that doesn't exist to place these reflectors there, to then have a little woman stand in front of a computer and claim that the numbers that she sees on her computer readout are actually the return signal in exactly the time frame they've claimed based on a presupposition of an R value and the distances these celestial bodies, physical though they are claimed to be, are at? You appreciate all of that, do you?
He's going to go over.
Say again?
No.
Okay, well, let's break that down. First and foremost, ignoring the fact that they've already claimed to have done it before these reflectors went there, they can't have placed reflectors on the moon because the region they travel to get there isn't real. That's the first problem. The next problem is, given that they've then claimed or pretended that these reflectors are there, we'll discount that because they haven't travelled through a fake medium to get to the moon. But we'll use the original assertion that it was done prior to travelling there without any need of reflectors. Now, the return signal, the timing for the return signal, is based on an assumption that Earth is a sphere, putting the moon at a given distance by manipulation of the angles when measuring it. So they've already decided how long the return signal will take, and they look at that particular time slot and say they happen to have had a couple of photons returned. Now, they're not showing anything in physicality, they're showing a computer monitor with somebody sat at it, and they go, yeah, look, that's exactly what I was expecting it to say in the time frame I was expecting. That's a couple of photons. My monitor says so.
Okay, so if you look at space.com, there's a article that says the moon flies through the Earth's atmosphere.
Okay. And?
So the atmosphere apparently extends beyond the moon. So that's a problem in itself.
What's atmosphere mean?
You can make any
air sphere.
You can make anything.
Oh, so guys, hello, I've got this. It's okay. Air sphere. So this air sphere comes along with the presupposition of your religious belief with it, does it? I'm talking about air. You're talking about air wrapped around a sphere, not escaping into gas. That presupposition extends to the moon, does it?
According to space.com, yes.
They're the purveyors of a fake medium, though, aren't they? Space. Well, the space they're referring to, outer space, isn't real. It's a fake medium that can't possibly exist. So, going to the liars about their lie isn't that much use, really. They're purveyors of a fake medium, punting a fake medium, telling you how the fake medium works.
While another in other descriptions will tell you how
going
you
back
have to have a container
the
for gas
signal
pressure.
that they're getting.
They're not getting a signal.
I was wondering,
they're not getting. He didn't seem to acknowledge anything I said. They're not getting a signal.
Okay.
A woman sits at a computer, and the computer gives a readout. They're not showing anything physically returning. They're showing what a woman reads out off a computer after following a process of pressing a few buttons on the computer, whilst at an observatory claimed to be firing lasers at the moon to bounce off reflectors that couldn't possibly be there because they're claimed to have got there by travelling through a fake medium. The return signal is also based on the timings predisposed to them by assuming an Earth radius and manipulation of angles to get the distance in the first place to the moon. They'll then look for the return signal with all of those parameters in place. A presupposition of a spherical Earth that has led them to manipulate angles to work out how far the moon is, to then work out how long they need to wait before they look for the return signal. All of these things are based on an R value, Earth radius, as denoted by your use of the word atmosphere. Atmo meaning air, sphere meaning a fundy presupposition.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think it all went over his head.
No, I think
You're doing a black belt on a kiddie pool, man.
I think he heard the rebuttal and got it.
I don't think we need to ad-hom the guy. He had good questions. They got good answers. He's thanked us. What's the problem?
Yeah.
I don't think he got it.
Everybody got to start somewhere, man.
Oh, God, I've got to do this. I know you're a flat earther as well. Hold on. Is carnival in your vocation? Have you got this crystal ball?
Presupposed radius based on shadow experiments. I got it.
Oh, here we go. I'm just going to tear a strip off a flat earther. I'm really sorry to do it. Why are you divining his thoughts? You don't know what he's understood or not understood. Sorry, go ahead. What was your shadows thing? Sounds interesting.
Oh no, I agree that all this lunar ranging laser experiments is based on presupposed radius.
Yeah. Same as the Venus example yesterday. Do you know where we are in housekeeping? It sounds like we've reached a conclusion.
No, we got two more.
Go ahead.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Nope.
Oh, hey, Owen. Didn't see you there.
Hello.
You're behind a dome.
Where you're
Anyone-
presupposing a container. You're
No, no.
presupposing a container. That's
No,
what
no.
they say
I
in
mean,
my chat.
literally, my kid's dome that we got him for Christmas, made out of paper, is in the way of the screen, and I couldn't see you because there's a dome in the way. Literally.
Anyone in Discord?
You've been domed.
They love it. It's brilliant.
So was there any claim I heard about pressure gradient in a container, therefore pressure exists next to vacuum? Did somebody
Where'd you
claim
get
that?
the pressure from?
Yeah, somebody claimed that the pressure gradient is next to the vacuum and eventually equals out, and that's why it's okay
Right.
to have
And
gas
did somebody
pressure.
allegedly show an experiment to prove that?
No, of course not.
That's
You
what
got-
we're still waiting for.
How would that be equivalent when one's got a container and the other one is a vacuum?
Hold on.
How is
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So whoever that person is claimed they did experiment. They did what? They had a container and they did what?
They didn't do anything. They put a cartoon up of a picture of Earth under a dome, flat plane, azimuthal equidistant projection, versus cartoon of a circle claimed to be globe Earth, with a halo around it, and arrows pointing down, representing that gas pressure, apparently, according to this idiot, only goes down. That was what you got. No experiment, just a couple of cartoons held up in false dichotomy.
Who are we talking about?
Right, but I thought that somebody did an experiment with a container in the gas and showed a gradient. Did that happen?
That was
there's been a
Hillbilly
couple.
Blue Balls.
They're not experiments; they're demonstrations. But yeah, there's two.
Right.
There's three now because
Right.
Paul put one on yesterday with a guy who oscillated a frequency. I believe it was an audio frequency through a pipe that had holes in, and you saw multiple gradients of gas that was being set on fire, and you could see that obviously the greater pressure was coming out of the holes that had the highest flames, and vice versa with the lowest flames. And that's the most recent.
And did they have like a gigantic pump hooked up at the end of the pipe to suck the air out?
No, it was pumping in gas into a container, just demonstrating a gas pressure gradient. There's a couple of other examples. Maybe that's one. Maybe that's not the one you were referring to. The other example would be Zachary Sabala, otherwise known as Good Times for All YouTuber, GUDTIMS4ALL, and he heated the bottom of a container and had a couple of gauges to demonstrate that he could cool one end of a container, heat the other end, and have a gas pressure gradient within the container. So that was another demonstration.
Right. And did he also have? Sorry to interrupt, but did he also have a gigantic vacuum pump hooked up at the end of the pipe?
No. The pipe example is Hillbilly Blue Balls. So he had transferred butane from a sealed container into a very long pipe that was open at one end. And your question to that would be, did he have a vacuum pump at the end to suck the air? No, he didn't. No. He just had it.
You know what I'm getting with this, right?
Yeah. What you're saying is, if you're going to claim that you can have gas pressure gradients next to a vacuum, then get yourself a gas pressure gradient and suck the air out the top of it and show that you can still have a gradient below it.
Oh man, these people are stupid.
Yeah, they are. They stand in violation of natural law. They may not realise that they do, but they do.
I mean, well, the claim is that you can have a gas pressure next to vacuum, and they don't hook up the pump to suck the air out. I mean, this is
Well,
just
they can
too
never
much.
demonstrate it. They can never demonstrate it.
The bottom line is they use
You know what?
Sorry, I just conclude it. The bottom line is they use a pressure gradient, which we do have, as a straw man, or a red herring rather. So they say we do have a pressure gradient, therefore the sky is a vacuum. It's circular reasoning. I believe the sky is a vacuum, and because we have a pressure gradient, that means we've got a sky vacuum. Well, that's all they're doing, inserting their presupposition into something that's obviously and observably the case. The reason we have a gradient is because we have gas created at ground level, and it dissipates as it goes up, gets less because it's not being created halfway up in the sky. However, you need a container in the first instance to maintain any gas pressure whatsoever, gradiated or otherwise. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas which is expanding in all directions, that's why it's going up, getting less because it's not created in the air, it's created on the ground, but it would continue to go up and disappear forever into the void of space if the sky was a vacuum. So as Rebel correctly asserts, if you want to claim that this red herring argument with the straw man, or whichever you prefer, that is the gas pressure gradient we do experience, is somehow justified in saying that above the top of the gas pressure gradient you can have a vacuum, then get yourself a gas pressure gradient and then hook up a vacuum pump to the top of it and pull out all of the air at the top of it and see how long the gas pressure gradient lasts. I assure you, as Rebel will no doubt concur with, all of the gas will disappear as soon as you start sucking it out.
Right, and not just any vacuum pump. Get yourself a big ass vacuum pump. You know, minus 17 torque, bro.
Is that a technical term?
10 to the
Big
minus
ass
17,
vacuum.
man.
Technical term.
Well,
eh?
why doesn't he do his experiment in NASA's giant vacuum chamber? That's a proper vacuum, right?
Yeah,
Apparently
exactly.
that chamber is only made
6
to drop bowling
only.
balls and leaves and things like that.
What happens if you have the pump on, like the vacuum on one side, and then you have air being pumped from the other?
Yeah, that's essentially what Rebel's saying. You've got a terrible mic, by the way, Sex.
I'm sorry.
One last question. Once we're done, we got one last question.
Go ahead.
Are we done?
No, go ahead.
All right. Any single viable scientific hypothesis in the entire history of either astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? I'm still waiting from Dr. Becky to reply to me.
Oh God, no.
No.
But come on, what she does is so viable for science, you know, sitting at her desk, listening to pop music and checking her email and
Looking at black holes.
yeah.
There is no scientific
There
evidence
must be a
for the sphere
hypothesis
Earth.
somewhere there.
Cosmology, astronomy, and astrophysics are all pseudosciences. There is no scientific evidence for the heliocentric model. There will never be a viable hypothesis from any of those fields ever. There is none in their history, and there will be none in their future.
Hold up. So you're saying I can look at things, but I can't science the things that I'm looking at?
If it's a
Come
phenomena,
on, man.
then yeah, you can science it if you're observing something happening in nature.
Think like things in the sky. Like I can't science the moon? Come on. I want to go science the moon.
You can observe
look at
it.
stuff. I want to
That's all you
look
can
at the
do.
moon and then write science on a piece of paper and write some observations and then say this is science. There you go.
Observation
That's not cool.
Observation is not experimentation. Step 1 in the scientific method: observe a natural phenomena. Observation alone does not make science.
All right. So maybe that's why Michio Kaku says no one in my field uses scientific method. It's all guesswork and leaps of logic and working by the seat of their pants. I mean, that's cool. All right, thanks.
Well, it might be cool, but it's not science, and it's not empirical, and the end result is a just-so story based on seat of your pants and extrapolations in logic rather than empirical data based on experimentation.
Who is Michio Kaku? Is that the dude who admits that he's wrong to the factor of 10 to 120?
Yes,
Is that the guy?
that science has cosmology
Why the
wrong
fuck
by
do
a
we listen
factor
to
of
him? Like, he admits
10
he's
to the
wrong 10 to the
120th
factor
power.
of 120, man. I mean, if somebody admits to you they're wrong 10 to the factor of even 100, I wouldn't want to listen to a single word coming from that mouth again. If they themselves admit they're wrong and they continue to peddle the notion
But
of
he's
gravity,
smiling. When he says it, he's smiling, though.
Speaking of the moon,
When he says
I
both
know.
quotes, he's
I know,
smiling,
so-
actually. Sorry, Paul.
Go ahead, Paul.
I saw this come through on my Facebook feed as David, posted by David, allegedly Dave, And he made this. I guess he put this meme together. The Tycho crater on the moon is 53 miles across, and the distance from the moon to the Earth is supposedly 238. Look at what the angular resolution or angular size of that would be, and look at what the angular resolution of the eye would be. So technically, here's using math. We shouldn't see the Tycho crater with our own eyes. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, the angular resolution would be so limited for that particular crater that it would be beyond the angular resolution of your eye, but you can absolutely see that with the naked eye.
Right. Well, and I did the calculations here, so I actually put it in to make sure his math was right. So we got the distance and then the size, and I came up with the same degrees of resolution. So just wanted to point that out. Any ballers got any explanation for that?
Well, they won't, because there isn't any justification for it, but the reason they've come to those conclusions in terms of those numbers, of course, is because they have presupposed Earth is a sphere, and then fudged the mathematics by adjusting the angles that they take the measurements with to force these celestial objects out to astronomical distances, which gets very problematic when you have things that are beyond the angular resolution that you can resolve with your eye being seen on something that's tens of thousands of miles away. Very interesting, Paul. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Hey guys, before I go on mute, this is morning in Canada. I have to go to work, but I'll listen to you and I'll be on mute. But before I go on mute, I have evidence of colossal stupidity, though, from the guy who claimed to dumb down the subject about which he knows nothing about. I mean, to dumb something down, you have to be an expert at it. Don't you agree?
Yeah, if you're taking something complicated and making it more simplistic for somebody of lower intelligence to understand, that would require a higher degree of intelligence and a better understanding of the subject in order to make it more simplistic. Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if somebody claims they're trying to dump something down without knowing the basics of the subject, what does that make them?
Arrogant.
That makes them stupid. And stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Dunning-Kruger.
Mick West. What a fraud that guy, man. I can't believe it.
I assume you're referring to his discussion with Quantum Eraser, where he was put to task in terms of what science actually is, in terms of what are the constituent parts of the scientific experiment, and he didn't know.
It's unbelievable, man.
And yet claims that he's there as a science communicator, dumbing down science so that people can understand it, when he doesn't understand the constituent parts of an experiment. Pathetic. Dumb, you're right.
What's the greatest part, though, is the way he tried to weasel out of it, saying, oh, I was responding in a way like I would respond to, as if I would have to dumb it down, the way I'm
okay,
teaching
guys, I'm on mute.
the regular people.
Talk later.
Right?
Thanks, Revel.
But he wasn't asked in that context. He was asked himself as a science communicator what the three parts of an experiment were. And he just didn't know.
No.
So
didn't have a clue.
Maybe he's here to learn.
No. He was here to declare that he's a science communicator and his aim in life is to dumb down science so that people can understand it. And when asked what science is, he didn't understand. But he's still out there conveying his bullshit, which he's claiming is dumbed down science. It isn't. It's total pseudoscience. It has no scientific validity. He wouldn't know what science was if it bit him in the ass. But he's still out there claiming he's dumbing down science. He's not. He's a pseudoscience salesman, not a science communicator.
So he's not like Virus coming here to learn?
Whoever's typing, the rumpus.
So he's not like Virus coming here to learn when he can't answer a question?
Yeah,
No.
Mick West, I think he was just too kind. QE was a moron, and Mick West was too gentle with him. I don't know why he let QE just spout drivel about Lite not being a wave and things.
Well,
sorry, we were
he's the
talking
one
about
that
his
didn't
total
understand.
lack of understanding when it comes to the three constituent parts of a scientific experiment, and he absolutely did not have an answer for that after declaring that he's there to communicate science, which he isn't. He didn't know what science was.
Oh, he knows what science is. It's a study of the
No, he
physical
didn't.
world. I think we're doing.
No. He was asked what the three constituent parts of a scientific experiment were, and I believe his answer was something like, "Oh, independent variable and hypothesis." Well, that's incorrect. He didn't know the answer.
no.
He was wrong.
That was later.
Yeah, I agree.
That
He
was
didn't know
after
about
he said, "Oh, I don't know."
experiment. Yeah, he didn't
Sorry,
get that right.
sorry. Can you just repeat that, Rumpus?
I agree. He did not answer that.
Yeah, because he's fucking dumb. Mick West is dumb, and even Rumpus admits it. The guy's thick. He's there claiming he's a science communicator, and even someone as stupid as Rumpus appreciates that he doesn't know what science is and didn't have an answer when he's claiming to be a bloody science communicator. Even Rumpus recognises how dumb and wrong Mick West was.
He's 99% correct.
No, he was wrong. 100% incorrect. Totally wrong. Not 99% correct. Defending him. Why are you white knighting for this retard? Exactly, Rumpus.
He said we're correct.
Why are you
Rumpus?
white knighting for this retard?
Rumpus.
He just didn't happen to know.
Was
he
Mick
got
West
his independent
99% correct
variable round the wrong way. That was
when
all.
he said that the R value was based on the standard model? Was he correct then?
The standard model. What's that?
It's your presupposition of a sphere Earth, your fundy belief. That's what the standard model is. Your religious reification of something that is not concrete into our world.
You build on existing knowledge. So for instance, you kept on asking whether his Earth curve calculator
No,
proved
not
the
really.
value of R.
If you
It uses
had
the
kept
value of
up
R.
with the flat Earth debate, right, you would have understood
I
by
didn't hear
now
anything. You
that Mick
interrupted me,
West,
so I
the
didn't hear
creator of
anything.
this bullshit calculator, came on here and absolutely admitted that the R value is an assumption based on the standard model.
Again, because you
And that's the
interrupted me.
calculator that you guys all use. So
You're
have
going
fun
to
with
need to
that.
start your question again because you interrupted me.
I'm not making a question. We're making a statement.
Try
Mick
again.
West is dumb. He claims to be a science communicator and can't answer what a scientific experiment was.
I
think that maybe science
independent variables correct. That's all.
Sorry, he's claiming to be a science communicator and he doesn't know what science is.
You can communicate a lot of science without knowing what the independent variable and experiment are.
That's what? You're telling me that without knowing what hypothesis is, you can communicate science. It's the basis of all science.
Oh, he knows
science,
that. He knows
all
that.
science, shut up, is hypothesis driven. And you're saying you don't need to know what a hypothesis is.
No, I didn't say that. You know I didn't say that. You're lying now. You're making stuff up. So
He
stop
didn't
it.
know what an experiment
I never
was or the
said that.
constituent parts. He
That's
claims to
different
be a
from knowing
science
what a-
communicator, and you're just going to talk over me while you white knight for this little dumb bitch. That'll be Mick West, a dumb bitch who doesn't know what a scientific experiment is. When put to task after declaring he's a science communicator, didn't know what science was.
He does know what science.
He didn't know what science was. It was demonstrated. He was asked what an experiment was, and he didn't know.
He didn't get the dependent and independent variable. You can
Yeah, that's correct. He didn't know what science was. That's correct. A man claiming to be a science communicator didn't know what science was. That's right, Rumpus.
No, there's science is about the study of the physical natural world. It's not necessarily
Yeah,
about
physical
knowing.
and natural world. Yeah, looking at what happens in the physical and natural world. Establishment of cause and effect. Based on hypotheses. Something he didn't understand.
No, it's not about cause and effect.
Yeah, that's what it is. Cause and effect reasoning. That's what the scientific method establishes. A dependent variable being the effect, the independent variable being the cause. That's what science is. A hypothesis being a scientific prediction that establishes your cause and effect.
Science is the study of the physical natural world.
Yeah, physical and natural world being something occurring. Not observation-based, but experiment-based. Experiment to establish cause. He didn't know what an experiment was. Let's not sidetrack about what experiment is. Mick West didn't know. And as you correctly identified, he had the wrong answer and he's supposed to be a science communicator. He's not. By your own admission, he's a fraud.
No, he got one part wrong, but not...
One part wrong, he should get it all right if he's claiming to be a science communicator. He shouldn't get some of it wrong. He should be absolutely 100% correct in every assertion regarding science if he's going to claim to be a science communicator. He isn't, he's a dumbo.
Einstein got quantum...
I don't care about Einstein. Mick West claims to be a science communicator. And when asked by someone who does know what science is, he hadn't got the vaguest clue what an experiment is.
QE has no understanding.
Don't talk about someone else. Mick West, by your own admission, is a dumbo who didn't give the right answer when asked what an experiment is. He gave the wrong answer. How dare he call himself a science communicator? He hasn't got a clue what an experiment is. That was proven. It's a fact. He's not 99% correct most of the time. He was asked what an experiment was. He didn't know. He's wrong. He's a demonstrable fraud.
No, he got a bit of it wrong.
He got some of it wrong. So someone claiming to be a science communicator's getting stuff wrong about science? Why the hell is he communicating stuff wrong?
Einstein got it wrong.
I don't care about Einstein. We're talking about Mick Dumb Fuck West. Yeah? Mick Pseudo-Ramonian 2 Space, a guy who claims to communicate science, and you keep admitting he's getting it wrong.
Hawkins got things.
I don't care about Hawkins. I don't care about Einstein. Yeah? You wanted to white knight for this little bitch. Now you're going to justify why a man who claims to be a science communicator is, by your own words, getting it wrong.
Following your logic, there are no...
No, not following my logic. Why is Mick West getting stuff about science wrong?
I didn't hear that.
Why is Mick West, a man who claims to communicate science, getting stuff about science fundamentally wrong?
In the same way that Einstein got some...
No, not Einstein, you little bitch. I appreciate that you want a white knight for Mick West. Now's your chance. Why is this fuckwit Mick West, who doesn't have the first clue what an experiment is, claiming to be a science communicator and getting stuff wrong about science?
He's 99%...
He's not. He's wrong. Are you going to keep circle jerking and saying he's 99% wrong? He's, 99% wrong in this occasion. What, 1% right with his incorrect answer?
Just like Einstein...
No, Mick West was wrong. He is not a science communicator. He's a fraud. If he was a science communicator, he wouldn't be getting it wrong. And by your own admission, he is getting it wrong.
All science communicators in that case, there are no such thing as a science communicator if you want...
Yeah, you're damn right. Mick West is not a science communicator. Science doesn't have lips. It's a method.
Yeah, okay, well, if you want to give him the title, if you want to deny him the title science communicator...
Yeah, he's a fuckwit, fraud, not science communicator, a pseudo-science salesman.
But you get everything wrong, Nathan.
Not me, Mick West, the guy you came to White Knight for.
He gets things 99% right.
No, he doesn't. He got this completely wrong. You trying to say that other things he's got right justifies his incorrect assertions when claiming to be a science communicator and getting it wrong about science. He's just a fraud.
He'll get it right next time.
Oh, will he? Well, what about all the times that he's been tailing everybody wrong up until now? Is he going to take down all his websites? Because he's been getting it wrong. Saying he's a science communicator, it's there on Wiki. The guy's a fraud. He might get it right next time. How dare you? So what? We have a little guess, and if it's wrong, we might get it right next time? No, he's just a fraud.
Said it's correct.
No, he's not correct. He's completely wrong. He got it wrong. He was asked what an experiment was, and the answer he gave was incorrect. He claims to be a science communicator. Mick West is a fraud.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. If you're going to be a science communicator, you better damn well get it right when asked about science. He didn't, therefore he's a fraud.
Correct.
Yeah, correct, he's a fraud.
99%.
No, incorrect on this occasion. Don't keep telling me about the other stuff he got right. He was asked what an experiment was. He got it wrong. He's not a science communicator. He doesn't know what science is. He is a fraud. Mick West's a fraud.
His description was incomplete.
It doesn't matter what was incomplete about his answer. He didn't get it right. If you're going to claim to know what science is, you better damn well be right when asked what an experiment is. It's a fundamental part of science.
And his websites are entirely...
His websites are based on his incorrect understanding about what science is. He has asserted that his model on his website, based on his begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator, is science. He doesn't know what science is.
It's absolutely correct what he's done.
No, he said it was science. He said it to me personally. He's a moron, a demonstrated fraud. doesn't know what science is and says what's on his science website is legit. It isn't. The man doesn't even know what an experiment is. He's a fraud pseudoscientist claiming to communicate science. But when put to task about what science is, Mick West got it wrong, by your own admission.
You don't need to know what an independent dependent variable are to do what he's done on his website.
Yeah, you do if you're claiming it's science, and he is. He's claiming his model is science. He's a fraud. Independent and dependent variable would form a hypothesis, otherwise known as scientific prediction. If you don't need to know what a scientific prediction is to make models on a website and call them science, then you are simply a fraud who doesn't know what science is. That's Mick West, the guy you're white knighting for.
Mick West didn't give an answer. I said, give me the 3 parts of a scientific experiment. He said, I don't know. Exactly. That's what he said. That was his first answer. Rumpus, you clown.
He's a fraud. Mick West is a fraud. A pseudoscientist.
Fraud and a charlatan. You should be asking quantum.
Yeah, I'll do it nice and calm. Let's stick Rumpus Prick on mute while I make this absolutely bold. I might even though I'm going to stick all of my lights on, go on camera like I did for the other fraud liar known as M. Scott Veach. So let's stick my camera on and say it to camera so everyone knows I'm absolutely 100% serious when I say Mick West is a fraud. The man hasn't got the vaguest clue what science is. When asked what an experiment is, he said he didn't know, but yet claims to be a science communicator. Mick West is a fraud.
Nathan, I'm going to have to agree with Rumpus on this one point.
He
did get it right.
He just didn't get the 3 things that you talked about.
Shut up. Yes, he did, Rumpus. We heard him. I had a full exposition. He said, I don't know. I'm looking at it right now. Clown.
Yeah, I was there. He said that.
Yeah, you're going to lie now, Rumpus. Lie for him. You were white knighting for him. Now lie for him.
As I recall...
I don't care what you recall. You're wrong. He's a fraud and a liar and doesn't know what science is, but claims to be a science communicator. You pathetic little white knighting bitch.
99% of what he says is correct.
You're a pathetic little white knight, aren't you? You're defending a man who's indefensible. He didn't know what an experiment was.
% idiot, 1% moron. Right?
Why do you
still think you know what else he's talking about, Nathan? He's still white knighting Mick West. He thinks light is a wave. So does the Rumpus. That's what he's talking about. Listen to him.
Mick West also said that
you are the charlatan.
That the R value is based on an assumption. So is he right about that too, Rumpus?
And also, I'd like to say,
the second law doesn't apply to the Earth. What's up with that? What's up with the ad-homs?
I missed. So, what's the question again?
That wasn't a question. It's what you said. I've got thousands of them, by the way. This is the latest. The second law doesn't apply to the Earth.
Yeah. Do you want me? I'll explain that. And you then. Here we go.
No, please don't. Fucking clueless.
The Earth is nature. It's a natural law.
What an idiot. Do you want me to explain it? No, not really, Rumpus.
Really,
go back to your slobber nurses, right? And ask him to dress you first. Friggin' idiot. Second law doesn't apply to the Earth.
In your debate with him, he contested that an independent variable was the cause. He said, I know you keep going to these quotes that say the independent variable's the cause, but I contest that. The guy's completely retarded, moron. Rumpus, you're a thicko. You're dumb.
And I want to say that Mick West did get it right. He proved that gas will fill the available volume. Even his own simulator proved that. Remember? I was going to try to get that in there. He did get one thing right.
In his pseudo Mick Westian 2-space model.
Yep. He proved that gas will fill the volume.
Yeah, he proved that they beg the question and assume R. He proved that gas will fill the space. And he proved that he's not in any way competent to communicate science. Fraud. That's what Mick West is.
Rumpus, you're worse than he is. I put Mick West on a higher echelon in scientific understanding than you. Demonstrated over and over again.
Let's get him off mute.
The second law doesn't apply to the Earth. Has got to be one of the most moronic statements ever uttered.
Because you don't seem to understand that it's not an isolated
Oh,
system.
we don't understand.
It's
Shut up.
John,
What?
look at
Where was
his
that
icon.
law?
He's a
Wait, let me ask my question. Where was that
see his
law
icon?
discovered? Where was that law
Hold on a
discovered?
second. Hold on a second. Paul's got a question for the rumpus.
Right. Do you not understand that the Earth is
No,
not...
right. Shut up. Paul's got a
Do
question.
you hold
Shut
on.
up.
Paul's
Go
asking
ahead,
you a
Paul.
question,
Hold on.
Rumpus. Go ahead, Paul.
Where was that law of thermal? Where was the law discovered? Where was it discovered? Where? The location?
Right. The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth because it's not an isolated system.
Rumpus.
He
What's my
didn't
name?
ask you that, you freaking idiot.
He's
The
too
second
slow.
law of
It's all right.
thermodynamics.
It's all right. Hold
was
on, Paul.
it
Let me just
discovered?
berate him. Hold on, Paul. He's too slow and stupid and has poor comprehension skills. He couldn't understand your question because he's stupid. Now, I would like you to repeat the question. I appreciate it might take 4 or 5 attempts. We're dealing with people with poor comprehension skills. That's not the question he asked, Rumpus. I appreciate how dumb you are. Try and listen. Go ahead, Paul.
Where was the law discovered? Where was the law discovered?
The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth.
I'm just gonna mute him.
Yeah, he's going to repeat the
He's
same
not
thing.
answering the question.
He's gone to stuck record mode. Just continually assert my assertion and ignore all questions. Yeah, thick. These people are thick. Rumpus is a good example. He can't listen, comprehend, and respond. Just assert zealotry and rhetoric. At nausea, indefinitely, most of the time over the top of any decent claims that are being made. He's incapable of actual comprehension. He's a stuck parrot.
Yep. I'll try to ask him. The question put to you, Rumpus, is where was the second law discovered?
The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth because it's not an...
Yeah, it's just going to...
Okay, let me
he's
ask you
stuck
again.
record, round and round,
was
asserting his
the
zealotry.
second law of thermodynamics discovered? Rumpus. I'm going to say it again. Where was the second law of thermodynamics discovered?
I'm answering the previous question. I haven't been able to do so yet.
Rumpus. Are you... Yeah, you're retarded.
I would like to answer
Let me
that
try it
He's
again.
stupid. He's too
Where
stupid.
was
His
the
comprehension
second
skills-
law of
answer the previous
thermodynamics
question.
discovered?
And I'm
Oh
going
my
to
god,
answer-
okay.
It's just
Where
too stupid to do
was
it.
the second law of thermodynamics discovered? Rumpus.
Don't you like me invalidating your question?
Where
Don't
was
you
the
like-
second law of thermodynamics discovered?
He's
And
scared.
don't you like me exposing
He's
you
scared of
idiots
the
by
question.
showing
He's
you
Where
scared.
was the
why
second
He's
law
scared.
of thermodynamics
And
discovered
why
last
doesn't
time
the second
before
law
you
apply
get
to
kicked?
the Earth?
He's scared of the
Quantum?
question, Rumpus. He's scared of it.
Just
It's a
answer
scary
the question,
question.
Rumpus.
Scary
Man.
question for him. It's because it's a scary question. He's terrified by the question. That's why he won't answer.
Where
Why
was the
doesn't-
second law of thermodynamics
You
discovered?
answer the
Rumpus?
first question, Quantum. Why?
He's scared of it.
I'm
He
done.
keeps talking
That's
about the
it.
previous question. He's too scared. He's terrified.
Disconnect. He's out of here.
Too scared.
Yep. Can't answer a question. I asked him about 8 times. Can't answer it.
Well done.
Paul
Good
asked him
question,
3.
Paul.
That's about 10.
Good question, Paul.
The
Hello, boys.
answer was the Earth, right? That was
Yeah,
the
of
answer?
course. It's a natural law.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's nice torturing them.
Obviously.
Can I just get Paul to make his point in that regard, though?
Well, it's discovered in the world that we live in, which is the Earth. So I guess it would have to apply to the Earth, you would think. Because if you discovered here, then it would apply to here, right?
What a natural law
But
talking
they-
about
but they-
nature. Would a natural
try to
law
apply
talking
the
about nature
okey-doke.
would a natural law talking about nature apply to Earth? Yeah, it would, yeah. What's that,
We all
Rumpus?
heard the
Doesn't apply to
okey-doke
Earth?
trying to come up, right?
Say again, I rumpused you, sorry. Chocolate.
No, I said we all heard the okey-doke he was trying to build out of that, right? It doesn't apply because it only applies to isolated systems.
Yeah. It's just
Really, Rumpus?
yeah.
We might as well
What have I
smash
missed?
that. So the second law of thermodynamics is described using isolated systems, something that doesn't actually exist in nature, to simplify the law, a very complex law, I might add. Same goes with gas law. There are no ideal gases in the same way there are no isolated systems. To say, oh, it only applies to isolated systems, therefore doesn't apply to Earth. What? Your open system next to a vacuum? Yeah, that's because if you had the second law of thermodynamics applying in nature, which it does, the gas would fill the space, and we wouldn't have any gas to breathe. So therefore you've got to assert that a natural law doesn't apply to nature. Yeah, what a crock of crap. The worst possible rebuttal you could have. Natural law doesn't apply to nature. That's his reply. Because if it did, the gas would fill the space.
Exactly.
Yep. And he's not the first one who's tried it. I'm sure he won't be the last, but good fail.
Hello.
Hey, Ranty, good to have you. Right at the end of the live show as well.
What's up, Ranty?
304 people
I think
watching.
Ranty has a new
Wowzer.
clip for. I think Ranty has a new winner for his contest, Nathan.
Oh, most triggered of the year. Did you want to announce that before I round out the live show?
Oh, we've got a
It's
winner.
gonna be a good
Well,
clip.
Me shouting out Mick West's a fraud. That's not me triggered. That's me demonstrating verbally my utter disdain for a total fraud known as Mick West.
was that today?
Just, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, when Rumpus says that Mick West is 99% right, I was curious. Was Mick West right when he said that the R value is an assumption based on a model? Was he right about that? Because you guys, for plenty of episodes, were using his calculator to prove your fucking presupposed ball. But now he admits that it's a presupposition based on a model. It's an assumption.
And with that, I'll say if you're watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching live on Nathan Oakley 1980, then a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in. Smash the super chat. Talking of smashing the super chat, I'm sure there was a few super chats that I should actually read out before I round out the live show. I'm not well. That's what I'm blaming. So shout out to Retro Bill, who says Rakia Life. Also, shout out to Alexander. Speaking of Michu Kaku, in suburban language, the term look at Kaku literally means look at the poop, preferably dog poop. Learn Serbian. Thank you very much for the super chat, Alexander. Really appreciate his support. Also, shout out to MC Universe, Sacred Truth Seeker, who says, I'm on pot, shoes for more. Okay, I don't understand, but thank you very much for your support. Really appreciate it. Shout out to Lightwave, last but by no means least, who says, even if there was a molten iron core spinning causing magnetization, heated iron loses magnetism. Am I wrong? No, you're not wrong. You're absolutely correct. It's called the Curie point. So yes, thank you very much indeed, Lightwave, for your support and super chat. Once again, another huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the people who made this live show possible on Discord and G+. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Because
I don't think you should let Rumpus on again until he answers the question, where was that law discovered?
You'll get that way. Just let it go.
I think
Paul. Let it go.
He's either too stupid or he's doing it on purpose. There's no way you're that thick. There's no way without doing something on purpose. There's no way. You can't see that.
It's called Zealotry.
It undermines his,
that's a whole nother level of zealotry. There needs to be a new term.
Yeah, Rumpus is a whole nother level of zealotry. Yeah. To the point where they will happily have themselves abjectly humiliated, and they'll continue to assert the same position through abject humiliation, just to defend their zealotry.
He said he was 99% right. Okay, I asked Mick West, what are the three constituent parts of an experiment? Mick West, I quote, off the top of my head, I don't know. So is an answer, I don't know, 99% correct? Rumpus. Oh my word.
But then goes off to
Yeah, I don't,
tell us about how he has to dumb it down later on after that. After getting it wrong, he has to dumb it down for the masses, for you guys who listen to his bullshit. That's you guys. Enjoy that.
Big
He
shout
had
out
to
to
dumb
Rebel.
it down. He did dumb it down so much that he had to ask the audience for an example of something.
An independent
Oh,
variable.
what's your
He asked
independent
me what
variable,
independent
John?
variable was.
What's a, I don't know.
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
an example of one?
Yeah, that was priceless. Can you give me an example of one? He's asking you, QE, for an example of an independent variable. This is a science communicator. Yeah, pseudoscience salesman.
What's your
Let's not
independent
forget.
variable in your experiment, Mick? I don't know. What do you think?
What's a good one? Hypothesis is it's a model.
Yeah.
What?
Have you got a show tonight,
Yep.
Ranty?
Yeah, I'm doing one at 10. It's part 2 of the from the awards from Monday.
Oh, okay. So
It's only gonna be for an hour or so.
yeah, cool. So only for an, you can do it the same length. It was good length, I must admit. Based on that length, I watched it twice, so I got twice as many views out of me if no one else.
Has anyone nominated me?
You never get triggered.
No.
Your level of
Have you ever
triggered
been
is like
triggered?
a toned down
Stop
version of our
comment.
level of triggered, which is to say that you're frustrated at somebody over talking you or not allowing you to make your point. Well, that's kind of what we get labelled, but we're more extreme in terms of our annoyance. But that's not actually being triggered. It's not, Brenda screaming, "Shut the fuck up," over and over again. That's different.
Yeah, that was funny.
Maybe when 10th man gets triggered, he just doesn't hit push to talk, but he's actually saying that. You can think of him saying that.
We do think of him as being triggered when he's not.
No. If maybe he
Yeah.
is saying that, but he's just not hitting push to talk.
I don't know. A few people have challenged 10th man.
No, I'm kidding. Sorry, I'm just
In that
Push
case,
to
Ranty,
talk? Is that like pushing my button or something?
No, that's a function of Discord.
I'll start the show then after.
We do it.
Yay, 2 shows today. Yay. 4 more hours.
No. What I mean by that is I'll run this.
Ah.
I'll run this show after Ranty's awards. So I'll do it. I'll set it to 11. I probably won't be in the. I won't be in the chat. I'd be very surprised if I'm in the chat. Good show today.
Yeah, Mr. Air is not the atmosphere. Came here with his wisdom.
What I have noticed, although it's only been a couple of times, is people saying, I don't want to ask a silly question. And then they ask like the most pertinent question ever. So I don't know if we've invoked this like level of fear in our own side that if they ask something that's already been addressed, that they'll get called a crayon muncher or generally abused. Whereas no, it's like most of the time, why not just draw attention to anything that you haven't got a particular understanding of and just ask?
I don't
you
want to
indirectly talking about me.
No, not specifically you.
Oh, okay.
Morning, guys.
It is a little intimidating sometimes, though. Just because I haven't been, I think a lot of us haven't really been following completely since the beginning, and I think you and QE and a lot of y'all have like been following it a long time. So there's like a natural progression y'all have experienced together, and then some of us haven't, and we're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. What the fuck is that? Like, it's kind of how it is a little bit.
No, dude, we all shit it after we've said something, waiting for QE to chew your head off. So you're not on your own there. So.
Yeah, we've had I've had
ours.
my head chewed off plenty from QE. It's it's just one of those things.
Yeah, I didn't mean specifically QE, but I will say every time I've said something and I thought I was gonna get my ear chewed off, I didn't, and y'all were like surprisingly accepting and like curious, and it was actually really nice and refreshing.
I was actually referring to the guy who was on the pre-show. There was a guy on the pre-show, and I don't know if he declared his side in terms of flat Earth or globe Earth, but he had perfectly reasonable questions, and they got answered. And at the end, he was like, "Oh, thanks." He was asking about gas pressure gradients and their assertion in regards to it gradiating to nothing. Just your typical globe head straw man, but he wanted to know how that worked. But he was tentative about it, and it's just noteworthy. I'm like, that's not the first time I've heard it. I suppose if you're hearing us absolutely tear a strip off a globe head
campaign going on about the show, and that disinformation is the fact that people come here and they get censored. But what the reality is that everyone gets a fair shot to say what they want to say. What people usually see the panel or Nathan reacting to is someone who's been on the show for a year plus and is asking the same question after already been in a contentious debate.
Yeah, I see that a lot, like with Rumpus. And then someone will see a clip of that and be like, y'all are such fucking assholes. I've seen that a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But
they'll focus on the fact that we've tore a strip off a globe head who's gone round in circles 16 times prior to that particular moment, and they just focus on that moment. And anybody who's kept up will go, well, no, if you watch that in context, there's 20 minutes prior where the assertion was smashed and then the reassertion was made with a hand wave for 20 minutes. Well, that's going to get annoying to anybody. But like you say, you take that out of context, focus on the single minute and go, look how triggered he is. You go, well, no, that's normal. Anybody would be the same.
Right, exactly. And also, like, I don't know if I was on mute during that whole conversation, but freaking Mick West not knowing the parts of an experiment is like a mechanic not knowing what tires and a transmission are. It's just like...
Precisely.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know. I think the Rumpus is intentionally deceptive or just very indoctrinated. I don't know which one it is, but...
No, retarded, because when you say the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth, it's beyond Dunning-Kruger and retard. It's institutional level. He needs to be horse tranquilized, rubber-roomed, and force lobotomized.
Well, have you guys seen his icon? He's a sheep. That's his icon on the Discord. It's a sheep.
Wow.
Yeah, I noticed that. The whole Dunning-Kruger thing, though, I saw a YouTube video on it that was just explaining the effect. It wasn't like towards flat earthers or anything, but it was like why stupid people think they're smart. And for a minute, I was like, man, I hope I'm not doing that, because I don't have like any type of I don't have any type of credentials. Like, I'm getting my degree in like business administration, but I don't have, I went to biology class like everyone and earth science and all that, but I thought about it and I was like, well, no, if something sounds ridiculous and you're just inquiring and questioning and kind of calling out things, that doesn't mean that you're claiming to be smart or smarter than anyone else.
Did it cut out for anybody?
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who did tune in on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!